Hey, have you seen this? A movie podcast where today we are reviewing the movie Flow, Golden Globe Best Picture winner for animated feature. Joining me is Erica McMullen and Adrian Cedeno. How are you guys doing?
Really good.
We got to remember, Adrian,
Awesome.
this podcast, we have audio listeners. So like thumbs up or things like that, we got to vocalize
Sorry,
it.
got you. We're doing good.
Excellent. Well, we're going to jump right into it, let you know what's come across our feed in the Hollywood area. Going to run right through these. Big news. Tom Holland and Zendaya are engaged. She debuted her engagement ring during the Golden Globes, and the announcement came after that. I'm sure you're all very excited about that. Will Smith released a mysterious message teasing a possible Matrix movie. Maybe. Says, wake up, Will. The Matrix has you. As you guys may know, Will Smith passed on being Neo in the original Matrix and went on to make Wild Wild West. I enjoy that movie. A lot of people shit on it, but
Yeah.
that was fun. Right? I got a good song out of it. Got a banger out of it.
Right.
Anything. Who would have thought American Psycho is now streaming on Disney Plus?
Everybody, I would have.
The three first John Wick movies are also on Disney Plus with Hulu. Interesting casting, and a clip came out of Oscar Isaac voicing Jesus Christ in an upcoming animated film, King of Kings. Also, and to be honest, I'm surprised with the cast. So you've got Oscar Isaac, you've got
I was going to say, it's really big range of people.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac, Mark Hamill, Uma Thurman, Forrest Whitaker, Ben Kingsley, Pierce Brosnan, 007 himself.
Yeah, that's so...
And Kenneth Branagh. Like, I was reading this cast, I'm like, yeah, sign me up for that animated Jesus Christ movie. I don't know. Hey, there's a market for it. And if you're into that, it'll be in theaters April 11th. Another interesting casting piece of news that came across my feed. Jude Law has been cast as Vladimir Putin in an upcoming film called The Wizard of the Kremlin. Interesting. Jude Law is making a bit of a comeback here. And lastly, we open with the younger generation, Tom Holland Zendaya news, and we will close with Timothy, however you want to pronounce it, Chalamet.
You actually said it right. That's how you say his name.
Timothy or Timothy?
He just came out in an interview saying you pronounce it Timothy, but he doesn't mind. But yeah, that is how you say it.
Honestly, he's becoming the people's champ here. I've definitely become a fan of his. But nonetheless, he will be the host and musical guest on SNL. If I'm not mistaken, is this the first time someone's been a host? No, there must have been artists or bands that have played host, right? Yeah.
But he's nonetheless, an actor, right? So what's the musical? Like his movie? Bob Dylan?
That's what I would anticipate, right? Play a song or two out of a Complete Unknown. Erica's hoping for his rap, right?
I want the Timmy T to come through and just rap his way through the little musical guest part. That'd be funny.
We'll find out on January 25th. But without further ado, we will now jump into our review. There I go rhyming again when I get to our review of Flow. Doesn't rhyme like Nosferatu, but we're going to be talking Flow. Just to open, I mentioned this one, the best animated feature at the Golden Globes, which, at that time I hadn't seen the movie. I think maybe you guys might have. I was anticipating Inside Out 2, just because of all the money it made. I mean, it was a huge box office hit.
Wild Robot.
Oh yeah,
Wild Robot was good. I thought that was. Yeah.
Like you said, I hadn't seen Flow, same as you, when the Golden Globes happened, but I had seen Wild Robot. So, I mean, this was like such a great category for animated films in general. Like, this is probably one of the most competitive I've seen in a very long time, where you just had really good animated films.
And it's noteworthy that this is an animated film out of France, and there's no dialogue. There's absolutely no dialogue. I can only imagine.
Considered silent?
Yeah, right. I mean, it qualifies. I think there's no words. There's no word.
So I
no
it's a silent movie.
Yeah. So for it to win the Golden Globe, being an international film, not having dialogue, definitely says something about what people think about this movie. But we're here to tell you what we think about it. So maybe, Adrian, why don't you kick us off? How did you see Flow? When did you see it? Did you see it with anyone? And what do you think?
Yeah, I've seen it actually a few times now since it's been out. I saw it with my daughter. I saw it as the whole family. Mixed reviews across the family. Me and my daughter were engaged and we appreciated it the whole time. I've only seen maybe 3 or 4 silent movies in my life, and the last one was taking me away. Like, I'm not down with silent movies, but this one kind of rekindled it. Like, I was like, this was a really good movie, not a single word, and I appreciate it. I was engaged the whole time. My daughter's saying she's 7, she's engaged the whole time, so she was all about it.
That's great to hear, because as I was watching it as a solo male turning 38, I was curious to see what the kids would think about this movie, because there's no dialogue, because it's very different than like a typical, let's say, Disney animated film or Pixar. I'm so happy to hear. You said your whole family watched it though, right? So your boys as well?
Yeah, they didn't really take it. They were like, these graphics aren't good.
Oh,
They weren't
interesting.
about it. They were just like, it's slow and boring. But yeah,
Not
yeah,
their
my
def-
wife
not
felt the same way. I was trying to watch it again the other day, and my wife was like, let's pick a different one.
We're gonna have to keep a track on that. Your wife's rating. We need to get a movie that she actually enjoys. So far, didn't like Nosferatu, doesn't like Flow. So we'll get one. We'll get one. Erica, tell me, what'd you think?
Oh my God. If you didn't cry in this film, maybe it's just me, but like I had just fostered a black cat and gave her to a loving family. So I think it maybe like got to me a little bit more.
Tugged at your heartstrings.
Yeah, just a little bit, throughout the whole thing, because you're just like, oh, I would like take you in and rescue you. I loved it. I loved that, seeing like the small like cat mannerism that like didn't really go away throughout the whole movie, but then like still kind of having to adapt to what's happening. I thought it was great. I loved that it was silent. I kind of appreciated the graphics a little bit more. I thought it was kind of crazy because like in the beginning, you're just like seeing the scene and everything around looks really detailed, really great, except for the animals. So I don't know if
Mm.
that was like on purpose. I actually really liked that because it almost seemed that they were just a tad bit out of place with what was happening in the movie, and I thought that that helped the movie a lot. Loved it. Would highly recommend to a lot of my friends. I think a lot of my friends would enjoy it.
I feel like the graphics changed and like they progressed. So something like the last review we were talking, and Mikey said that the acting progressed throughout the movie. It got better. I feel like the graphics got a little bit better. Like it was a little pixelated at first, like in the beginning. Like it almost seemed a little fuzzy and like weird, and then it almost like came clear and looked like 64-bit, as opposed to 8-bit. Like, it went from
Yeah.
Nintendo to Xbox, like all of a sudden.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
it's nice that you've seen it a few times here, so then you can pick up on things like that. We won't investigate how you've been able to see it so often, considering it's only in movie theaters right now. I'm sure you're just really supporting the cinema.
Yeah,
Fall.
yeah,
If you
absolutely.
would like to watch this movie, you can already rent it on Apple TV,
Yes, you
That's
can.
right. Way to go, Erica. Way to go, Erica.
which is what I did this morning.
Was that your first time watching it this morning?
Yeah. And
Nice,
so if my
nice.
eyes are a little red, it's because I was crying.
Sure, sure. Fresh out of the tissues.
Fresh out.
Um, yeah, so I enjoyed Flow. And like I said, it's an interesting perspective for me because I don't necessarily have kids or came looking through that perspective. I thought it was enjoyable. I appreciate movies that take big swings in the sense of doing something unique. And because there's no dialogue and the animation's different, it's interesting, right? To the point of your sons, Adrian, it's not like state of the art groundbreaking type of animation. It's more of a artistic choice, the type of animation that's being used here. And like Erica said,
Yeah.
some scenes and certain sequences do seem a bit more developed or detailed as far as the animation and the characters themselves, the animals themselves. Not as detailed, but it does feel intentional, right? Like it's a style choice, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword in that at times, especially at the beginning, it almost felt like I was watching a video game sequence, right? Like the camera moves almost like a ghostly spirit, like we're just following these animals.
It reminds me of, like, a Zelda game, very much, like, on the lines of those graphics, like a Zelda game from maybe, like, N4 and GameCube. Like, that's where I felt like I was transported, like, into one of those games, and here we are along the ride with these animals,
You
you know
know,
what I mean?
I really enjoyed that the graphics weren't on point like that, but the audio quality was like, for it being a silent movie and animated, for some reason those animals pulled a lot of emotion. Like every meow seemed like it, like you felt the emotion in that meow. Like I feel what that cat is going through. You know what I mean? Like it was unique in the sense that visually what you're looking at was somewhat artistic and not appeasing to the eye. Where it was like, man, is it still loading? Like, is it pixelated? You know, like, but it was
Mhm.
definitely for a purpose, and it provided like just that music to just and the sounds to just take over the entire movie, like all the emotions from the dogs to the barking and the meowing from the cat, like you can feel their emotion. It was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tugged on my
100%.
little heartstring
And what an
every
accomplishment
time.
again. What an accomplishment in that they do it again without dialogue. Just to circle back to what you said, Erica, this is why we get along again, because I wrote a review on our website that should be available by the time this podcast is out. But I literally quoted Zelda as an experience, but a little bit different. I was saying that it's coming from the perspective of that fairy that follows Link. You know what I mean? Like there's kind of just a, I don't know if that fairy has a
That's
name,
such a good way to put it.
because
Yes,
you're
I
kind of just
actually like
following
that.
you're following the character almost like that. It feels almost like I said ghostly or like a roaming camera, which I think is a strength, but it can also kind of feel like you're in a video game. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, because it did feel like a next generation video game, like a next level of graphics that we would get. But outside of that, this is definitely a cat lovers movie. If you're a part of the cat versus dog debate, dogs are portrayed as the less superior species between the two, right? I mean, it opens up with these dogs kind of being dumb and bullies. Oh, go ahead. You're gonna say it's cat.
are we getting into spoiler alerts time?
Well, like,
Uh,
from a cat not necessarily, but from a cat's perspective, though, if you're thinking about it, because the entire movie is essentially following the cat, that's exactly how a cat would feel. So that's where I was getting into, like, the small, like, cat things when he's, like, knocking things off of where he was, or, those things.
It's
That's
definitely
exact
from
they
the
got
cat
they got it to
perspective.
a T, exactly how a cat would feel in those scenarios. And I think as well, making the main character a black cat was, like, super important, because what do we really know about black cats? They're the ones that are usually left
Unlucky.
behind. They're the least adopted cat. They're
mm,
associated with bad luck, and which are all false things about black cats, but having them intentionally pick a black cat and put it in these scenarios where this is like real life for the cat, like when it encounters any animal that is not maybe another cat. I thought they did a really good job. Regardless of how you feel in the dog cat debate, I have a big boy dog, I've
mm.
fostered cats, I've fostered dogs before, but in my head that's exactly what a cat would feel like when this huge group of dogs, is around.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, especially like you said, it's a black cat. And to be honest, that didn't even click with me as I was watching the movie. I was just locked in with this cat and its journey and the friends he made along the way. Which
Mhm.
brings me to my next point, is that I think the pacing was really good. Like, it's not a super long movie, which is always welcome,
Right.
but the pacing felt very organic. And again, that's difficult to do without dialogue.
It
That
was
you
only
make the
85 minutes.
There you go.
Mhm.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's ideal. That's a ballpark of animated film.
The perfect the perfect time.
Yeah. So I think being that it has this type of animation, the story pushes along. We can talk a little bit more about the story and plot points and spoilers. But overall, it's a good movie. I think that more movies should be made like this, like make a unique style and type of animated family film, because there's not enough of them out there. Do you guys have anything else you want to touch on that is non-spoiler related, or should we dive into spoiler?
We should dive in spoilers.
Let's do it. So, spoilers for Flow.
Spoiler alert.
I just want to open up with this part where the birds, those large white birds that are in this movie, are some fucking gangsters. There's a scene where one of the birds is trying to defend the cat.
Yeah.
And they battle it out. They battle it out whether, who's got the right choice to help this cat or not. And the one trying to defend the cat gets its wing broke.
That was brutal.
I was like, that's one of those moments where I was like, wow, I wonder what kids are going to think of this. Like, this guy's claw is on his head.
Yeah, like something like that, like a challenge like that, to think that something like that happened. Essentially probably would happen in a nature type scenario, but to see it happening in this movie, I was shocked the whole time. I was like, are they going to let this happen? Like,
it's like, it's rated PG American History X with biting the curb there, except you get your wing broken.
Yeah, that's exactly the feel it had.
Like, because when I was watching, like when you watch, you don't necessarily know which bird is which, right? Because they look alike until after the fight, and then you kind of see it kind of makes sense. But when that happened, like my eyes widened. It was like, oh, like this movie is
they're getting into it.
It's going for it. Yeah, some Goodfellas style gangster moves there.
Sorry, I want to say something because it's towards the beginning. Love that the capybara is the first one to just, be like, whatever. Because we know about capybaras in nature where they get along with literally every single animal that they encounter, unless it's like a huge threat to them. They've been seen hanging out with crocodiles, with birds, with just anybody in their region. And the fact that this little cat finds the capybara first, loved that. Loved how that was going to be kind of like the beginning of you can have other animal friends kind of thing. Like you can trust other animals. You don't have to be, in your head about it and think everybody's out. You don't have to be solitary, in which if we know anything about cats, they're very solitary creatures. But knowing that like they put the capybara in there first because capybaras, like you said, get along with all animals. It was kind of nice to know that the cat was going to have somebody in his corner when, other animals were coming into the. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because as you're describing that, I suddenly thought the capybara is like I don't know if you guys are familiar with Taoism, but he's like the Taoist creature in this movie, and that being like very at peace, not desiring anything. What'll come kind of thing. And throughout the movie, you see him kind of like doing the most minimum, but also not getting stressed out. He's like, we'll be all right. Wake me up when we're
already
there.
at the position as it is.
Yeah. Adrian, any spoiler related thoughts you want to touch on?
I mean, I just really appreciate the whole movie. I mean, there's all kinds of spoilers, but I don't know that they're necessarily like spoilers. It's just different events that this cat has to go through. Like, I didn't think the cat, when it was like in the stream and like drowning, that was an intense scene.
Like, you don't think this cat's gonna make it a couple times?
I mean, 9 lives. I kept telling my daughter, like, cats have 9 lives. Like, how many do you think he just lost?
Sure.
So it was an intense movie overall. Like, it really was emotional, like, of a movie. It was definitely, I recommend it for everybody to go check it out and watch it.
Yeah, I think a challenge I had, just to come off our cloud a little bit, is there's something happening here where the dialogue or the story is a bit interpretive, right? Because there's no dialogue. We're left to assume what's being said between the animals, right? I mean, it's like you said, Adrian, the way with sound and the settings and everything, we can distinguish what they're saying to each other, but it's still an interactive experience for the audience member because you're needing to use that part of the brain of like, okay, this is what they're saying, right? Which is great, but I think it left the plot or the messaging a bit ambiguous to me, specifically when we get to the point where, the bird and the cat are essentially on this ridge and they start floating, right? I think this might be the most spoiler aspect is they start floating and then the bird continues to ascend and disappear. And it was in that moment I really got excited because I was like, maybe all these animals died in the flood and this is their journey to the afterlife. But when it was all said and done, only that bird left. So I don't know how to read that. What were your guys' thoughts around that?
That's
Do you want me to go, or do
interesting.
you want Adrian
Yeah,
to
go ahead. Go ahead, Erica.
I like that idea. I like that idea of them like have already like died and this is their journey on. For me, it's like it was more of like their friendship, like they got everything that they were gonna get out of their travels together, and it was like finally time for them to move separate ways. So it's like for me, it was more of like that detachment of things you no longer need in your life. Like it's more of like I appreciated everything that came from this lesson and learning things about you, and but we're no longer in the same realm of where we need to be, so we're gonna separate here. That was how I took it. Was more of like I don't need this anymore. I appreciate everything you've done, but this is the where we split essentially.
So what did it
This is where we
mean
go
for?
our separate ways.
So what did it mean to you when the bird ascended? Because you're talking about the animals as a whole going their separate ways, but specifically with the bird leaving, like what did that signify?
No, like for me, like it's that that dependency. Like we no longer need to depend on
On each
anybody,
other.
on each other anymore. Like we don't, like we've done everything that we could do for each other. So this is just like a see you later kind of thing,
Okay,
in my
interesting.
opinion.
Adrian?
I not at all did I think like they were ascending from the afterlife, but it did kind of throw me for a loop when the cat had like the dream about the reindeer or the deer, and then like almost trampling him. And then later on in the movie, like where were all these deer during the flood? And then all of a sudden they're just running around again.
Yeah.
So stuff like that like did throw me for a loop where I was like, maybe they did all die in the flood. I guess now that you say that, it does make sense, and I can definitely, yeah, maybe it is they're ascending to the afterlife. Maybe it does have something to do with where the cat's original home in the beginning of the movie was. Like to me, it looked like witchy, like it was,
Mm.
big cat stone sculptures out front of the house, and then nobody would live there. But it kind of, to me, had that kind of a vibe of like a mythical type house kind of a thing for this cat.
That's fair to say too, because when you're watching this movie, you never quite know like where in the timeline of like Earth you really
Right.
are. Like
Right.
you don't know if it's like maybe a post-apocalyptic kind of thing, or if it's maybe like a little bit more ancient times, or like that in between phase. You never quite know,
Yeah.
since there's no humans, you never really quite know where you are on the scale of Earth. So like you said, like if this is a great flood, is like a great flood that's been predicted to happen in the future of Earth, timeline, or is it a great flood that's already happened and this is kind of what we're watching? Especially when there's a little bit more mythical creatures kind of going on throughout the whole movie as well.
To that point you made, Erica, there's no humans in this movie. So is this a world with humans? I tend to think yes, because of the flooding, global warming and rising water levels, these things. So have these humans already died and this is just the animals are left and then so there's a lot of things that like all this to say a lot is left to interpretation, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just makes it hard to pinpoint specifically what the movie is saying, what is really happening, what is actually happening. And you also said something, Eric, that made me think, like, is it in the future? Well, it's interesting. There's like monuments of cats in
Right.
certain areas of this world, right? Like big monuments
Like
of
Planet of
cats.
the Apes type. Yeah.
The cats have taken over. But, and then there's like this real like rock pillar kind of destination that it seems like they're going towards or calling to them. I think that's where the bird actually
Oh.
like ascended. So there's a lot of things that were left to interpret. And it's just a really unique, interesting experience. One other thing I just wanted to touch on is you kind of nailed it a little bit earlier, Erica, when you said like a cat would react this way to dogs. I think the movie does a good job of incorporating these animals' behaviors into this movie, right? You had, is it a meerkat? Well, no. Not a meerkat.
A lemur.
A lemur, thank you.
King Julian.
King Julian.
Madagascar.
What was that show on PBS? The Kratz Brothers? Do you remember? You guys remember that? The Kratz Brothers, right? They
Yeah.
had like Zaboomafoo. Oh, come on. Taking it back.
I think that might have been a
Little before
bit.
your time.
There's even a cartoon about them now.
Right? Yeah, they're still
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
But just like he was kind of like collecting these items, which made me think like, are these guys like hoarders? I don't know, maybe. It makes sense. Like I bought it. But a lot of the characteristics of these animals were just pretty right on to how they are in nature, and to show it in the story I thought was really interesting.
Even down to like the different breed of dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like specifically picked like a Labrador to be the one who,
Was like clumsy, just wanted to play.
cat. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, of course you love the cat. You're
Yeah.
a freaking Labrador. You love everybody.
Right.
Right. I one other interesting thing, and I guess maybe I'm trying to interpret it too much, is back to this bird, right? Its wing is broken. He's on the boat with these animals, and there's a point where the Labrador is with them, but the other group of dogs that he was with are kind of stranded as the water is rising. And all the animals are trying to tell the bird who's controlling the boat, essentially to go pick them up. And the bird's like defiant up until I think the capybara, or maybe the cat actually guides it over to these dogs. And it made me think, like, is that just a character arc or development of this bird? Maybe I'm, again, looking too into it. But before, he was looking to defend the cat, he was looking to help. And then he gets his wing broken and he sees other animals that needs help. And he's like, nah, fuck that. We gotta push forward.
Fair, though. I mean,
So that's fair.
totally fair. Yeah.
But maybe this this bird and this cat were like, soul connected, right? So he's like, no, I got you. And okay, the birds came, I got you. Gets his arm broken. And okay, now those dogs that were messing with you earlier need help. Nah, forget them. Like, we're gonna keep going. Like, he was legit gangster. And that bird was gangsterest bird I've ever seen.
Honestly, though, really,
Yeah.
though, I mean, like to challenge, the leader of your bird, have it break his wing, and then still continue to like be with this group of animals, and have to make decisions, and it played to a lot of strength to the bird, I think, because that's like such a difficult, like, shit, my whole bird family, like I defended this little cat, and now this little cat now this little cat wants me to pick up these animals that were cruel to him after I just defended this cat against these other cruel animals, which were my own kind. So I get where that bird would be coming from in that scenario.
So throughout the whole
but yeah,
movie, I
there's
feel
like
like
a little bit of a character arc.
I feel like the messaging was just more like coming into yourself. Like, you don't have to be by yourself. Like, you can lean on others, and it's okay. It's not like taking you away from you being a cat. It's not taking you away from you being a dog by helping each other,
Yeah, and I think it plays more into the cat's personality than necessarily the bird's personality. The fact that the cat was willing to be like, no, like, you saved me, and now I have the opportunity to save somebody else. Like, we need to go and get them.
And not just somebody else, a group of dogs that were chasing this cat at the beginning of the movie, right? So it's interesting. They almost change positions, the bird and the cat.
I think they're trying to say humanity, you know what I mean? Like, in all our like apocalyptic end of world movies, it's always, every man for himself. And that's kind of the vibe that the cat was going through. Like, it's every man for himself, but what is the last thing that leaves us is like our humanity. Like, help your fellow man, even if they're different, help, right? So that's kind of what the whole gist of the movie is, just being able to help something that's different than you, even though normally you would want to stay away.
Or at least that's the message you're hoping your daughter took away from it. Help those in need.
Definitely.
Those in need.
Definitely.
I'm realizing a bit that I want to do for these movies is when I have my friends introduce how I feel about the movie. And I totally forgot to do that for this movie. So let me get my friend in here. You might know him as Tommy DeVito from Goodfellas, Joe Pesci's character. He actually has a great way to summarize how I felt about this movie.
I like this one. One dog goes one way and the other dog goes the other way.
One is going east and the other one is going west. So what?
And this guy's saying, what do you want from me?
That's exactly how I felt. One dog's going this way, the other dog's going that way, and I felt like the man in the boat. Like, what do you want from me? What do I take from this? There's obviously, like we mentioned, good moral plot lines here as far as how we should help each other, how the world is headed in a certain direction. I think those are some of the key takeaways. But if you guys don't have anything else you want to touch on specifically, let's go into our double feature recommendations. Adrian, why don't you kick us off? What would you pair up with Flow?
Life of Pi. It came out in 2012. I felt like it kind of had similar undertones and like points. Instead of just a little black cat trying to survive it was a person trying to survive with a tiger that's trying to eat its face, So I would pair Life of Pi with it. That was a really good movie. I think it won awards also. And it's a banger of a movie. You can still watch it over and over again.
That's a good pairing. Like, as you say that, I visualize, I haven't seen the movie, but I remember seeing the trailer of him on a boat with a tiger, and a similar idea, similar situation. Erica, what would you pair with Flow?
I went in maybe a little bit of a different direction. I kind of picked another post-apocalyptic story, but with a little bit more action. 2012. And the reason I picked 2012 is because I think it would be a nice contrast to see, look at how animals can coexist, and look at how people are probably going to act when this happens. Just a little bit more upbeat. And I'm totally blanking on his name right now, the main actor in that. John Cusack, sorry. John Cusack's in that movie, and I mean, he was a big part of my childhood in a lot of like really random movies, but it was always movies that I never forgot about. So I'm gonna go with 2012 just to give you some action, a little bit more dramatic.
So the movie is called 2012.
The movie is
never
called
seen it?
2012.
No.
It's about the end of the world. The Mayans predicted it in 2012.
Yeah.
It was going to be the end.
If I ever
Kinda.
have children, they're seeing this film, and I'm gonna tell them I lived through it as a joke.
Yeah, right. We survived.
Be like, oh
There's
my
like
God,
a
I
giant
survived
tidal
this.
wave, and only the elite have a ticket to get on these ships that are like giant arcs that are supposed to survive the 40-day flood.
Sounds like a great pairing, a post-apocalyptic theme. For me, mine's not post-apocalyptic, but I'm going 1992's Homeward Bound.
Boy,
Classic movie. For all the cat propaganda we got in Flow, I need to balance it out with some dog love. And you get a cat, but it's definitely more of a dog-friendly. I mean, there's still portrayed, especially Michael J. Fox's character, Chance. Yeah, Chance.
Yeah,
He's a bit
puppy.
goofy.
if you take
He's a
up
boxer.
hold on a second. If you take up Michael's recommendation and you watch Flow and then Homeward Bound, please just have a box of tissues right next to you.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, if you're in the mood to like just cry, that's a good double feature.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
sad story, but I'll mention it because it's relevant. One of my best friends, Brian, shout out Brian with a Y. We call him Ginger Bear. Shout out Brian. Unfortunately, lost his dog, Bailey, who was the sweetest little beagle mix. And I was going to visit him, in San Francisco, and I was making the road trip from up here, and found out about this maybe like 2 hours before I was getting to his place. And I was totally like, hey, like I can totally stay somewhere else. We could catch up next time. And he's like, no, come, it's all good. And we spent the day when I got there watching Homeward Bound 2. We just really went down
Just went for it.
we just went down we totally bought in and embraced the mourning period. And it was nice. It was really nice to be together for that, because that's always tough. I mean, I have my dog Kenny, who's 14, and I
Kenny
can't,
boy.
like, honestly, I can feel myself want to cry just even thinking about it, but we won't do that. So that's our double feature recommendations for Flow. One thing I was going to say is we don't, like, I think it's assumed, but I don't even think Flo is the name of this cat, right? Like,
I was calling
obviously,
it the entire time.
and I think
If there's no people to give it a name, I don't feel like animals have names. Yeah,
that's deep. That's philosophical. So
they
then
have
why
a
do we
smell.
names? Hey, let me smell
Philosophical.
you.
Humans ruin everything.
Yeah, not philosophical, factual. I think I think the title relates to like if you go,
Going
it's
with the
like this
flow.
movie is going with the flow. It's like the capybara's mindset, just go with the flow, right? And if you do that, you'll have a good time with this movie. One other thing we'll do with our reviews, which we forgot to do for Nosferatu. Listen, guys, we're just getting started here, so we got to work out the kinks. We'll get our rhythm. But we forgot to do our stock draft for Nosferatu. We did make up for it in our movie monster draft, did our draft choices there. But here we are now at Flow, where we can't really draft any characters. Because what do? Draft a cat? Like, so I think, or Erica, go ahead.
Yes, I am gonna draft the black cat. I think if we drafted like each of us grabbed an animal, so like say Michael, you wanted to draft the bird. Now it doesn't have to be necessarily that specific bird, but if there's a huge movie where a bird is a huge impact in the film, I think that should play into your stock.
Okay. I'm not opposed to that. But like anytime there's like a cat, dog, bird, capybara, whatever you draft is in a movie,
Well, yeah,
we
whatever
can
you
reference it as our stock. Your cat's struggling. Yeah, got it. Okay, fair enough. Let's do it then. So if we're drafting stock, we don't have the results of our movie monster draft yet. I text you guys a photo when it was tied at 33% for each of us. That's changed since this recording, but we still have a few hours left to vote. So we can't determine.
Yeah, I changed a couple times.
My people are having a hard time figuring out how to vote. I'm like, you got to leave a comment.
Yeah, I know. We got to. We'll have to do a video just tutorial on how to navigate for the various generations. We'll say that. Okay, so then how do we determine this draft order? How about this? I was going to say whatever order we go in here, we do the opposite for our next draft, but then the second place is going to be second place. You know what? I've got these here ready to go. I've got these here ready to go.
You probably got some paper.
Exactly. All right.
We could just let
drill.
we could just go.
I hope you know that this is my favorite part is when you just like take off whatever you're wearing and just plop it in there. Like I love when this happens.
All right. That means we got to keep it in. All right. So you guys know, here's your names. We're mixing it up. Shout out Movie Madness video rental in Portland. I could spend hours in there. They have costumes and props from Hollywood movies. New Year's resolution for mine is to see every Oscar Best Picture that's ever won. Movie Madness is where I'm renting those movies. So if you're ever in Portland, even if you're not going to rent anything, it's a unique place to check out.
How many movies would that be?
So it
We're
started.
on, like, the what?
So it starts in 1927. I started that journey. Wings was the first best picture. It was kind of split into two in that first year. There was Best Picture, and then there was like Best Cinematic Achievement or something. So I watched both. And now I'm up to 1931. So I've watched 4 of them so far. Maybe I'll do a little segment every decade. I'll give a catch up of what I thought of these movies.
Only like 90 more movies to go.
Yeah. And there's going to be some tough ones. I mean, there's already kind of been a couple tough ones considering the timing and everything. But anyways, quick shout out, not to digress too much. Here we go. We're drafting Stark. First, Erica. You know, Adrian, you've called it last time as far as how it should go. You just said Erica first. Next, that's me in the middle. And then we have, obviously, Adrian. So, Erica, what animal do you want here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the cat. It's a little bit, like I said, a little bit nostalgic because I legit and he was a black cat too, my little baby. He was great. I think that, we already kind of saw it in Nosferatu. A bunch of people were like hoping and praying that the cat survived the whole movie. I think cats are going to play a big role in a lot of movies coming up. So I'm going to take our cat.
Fair enough. I've got to take the dogs. You know, this one's for my dogs. You know, it's tough because there's a lot more dog movies that come out than, let's say, cats. But then you get things like Madagascar or We Bought a Zoo or whatever that has all these other animals. But I got to go dogs. There weren't any reptiles in this movie. Otherwise, I'd go that route. But I'll go dogs. So, Adrian, whose stock you picking up?
So I'm pretty much locked in at bird, right? There was only, fish maybe? Maybe fish?
Fish?
You could take bird, fish. You could take the capybara.
I would even though it's not exactly this, I'd even allow you to take a whale.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will
What's my second choice?
I'll take bird. I'll take Bird. I
Go.
feel like there's gonna be a
Okay.
parrot movie, like Rio or something. Rio 4, Rio
Sure.
3. You know.
Great movie.
Good call. Good call. Excellent. So then lastly, we have our Commodus scale, where we determine if it is a thumbs up, thumbs down, or even. Adrian, start us off. Even. Wow. Okay. Erica,
No,
what
no,
do you
no,
got?
no. We get
Oh,
thumbs
you're
up.
up. Oh, I see. You're thumbs up. I'll give thumbs up. We got 3 thumbs up here for Flow.
No, I was gonna say something, but I highly recommend it. I mean, especially how we were talking about like silent films and this. While there are like some heart wrenching scenes, I think it would be like a really great introduction for kids to see what a silent film looks like. You know, it's like Adrian was saying, like his daughter was hooked on it. You know, there's enough in there to keep kids hooked, regardless of the lack of
Dialogue.
dialogue in the film.
Mm.
I would highly recommend for people to take a peek at it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said, the uniqueness of this movie, it's very beautiful, very, very relaxing. Even like the stressful moments, like it makes you engaged and propels the story forward. But it's a very, like, I would imagine if I had kids, I'd be the one that like, put this on for the kids and then I'm probably going to fall asleep. But I mean that as a compliment because like I've seen the movie and it's almost a bit soothing, right? It's like a big
Zenful.
big screensaver. Yeah. Excellent. Well, that is our review of Flow. Coming up next, we will have a bonus episode Friday related to Flow, where we are drafting animated animals. Speaking of animals in movies, there's a ton, obviously, between Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, and other animation studios, tons of animals. What we're going to do here is pick the ultimate animal team. So, like, if we were to make a new movie, who's going to be our hero? Who's our villain? Who's our mentor? Things of this nature. So tune in Friday. We'll have that bonus material there for you. Erica, you want to comment? You got
I
the
better
grin,
win, dude. I'm telling you right now, there are a few on my list that if I do not get them, I will cry. I'll be so upset.
So these are animated animals only.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And, as a pick comes up, if we need a debate or get a judgment on a pick, we can do that on the episode. But make sure if you want to catch that, tune into our YouTube channel where we post all of our video content there. YouTube at Seen This Pod, Blue Sky at Seen This Pod, Letterbox at Seen This Pod, Instagram. I couldn't get Seen This Pod, but we have Seen This .pod. And if you want to make it easy, you can go to our website where I have some reviews and additional content there at www.seenthispod.com.
And check us out on Spotify.
We're available on Apple Podcasts. Big Spotify is in Adrian's pocket there, promoting Spotify. But you know what's great about Spotify? Another place where you could see our video. Spotify does podcasts on video, so you can check us out there. Like our content, follow, subscribe. Really helps us get a visibility to people that aren't following us yet. So until then, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.